and welcome back here. So let's discuss some of the ways that I have seen in my life this change, and I recommend, this is a way that you can do this in your own life, of how you can reduce the waste in your own life and really think of yourself as a aware and conscious consumer on this planet. Because it's not reasonable for people to just live completely off the land. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody is in a situation where they can do that. But there are some ways, and I have found it. Living in an urban area, I have found my own ways that I can make a difference individually. And I really just want to implore people to look deep within themselves and really ask themselves, are they doing all that they can right now? Or is there something more that they can do? So number one, recycle, but not only recycle, reuse everything that you possibly can. This is going to cause you to get a little bit creative in your life. You're going to have to think of new ways that you can reuse something again after buying it, and before you throw it out, reuse it in some kind of way. How can you change that jar of jelly into using it as maybe a jar to hold your nails, for your tools? Where can you be creative to reuse and instead reduce throwing things out? That is going to be a huge, huge benefit for the landfills and just taking over the space of the land unnecessarily because of our consumer habits. So not only recycle, because recycling is getting to a point too where that is becoming a little bit of an issue because the consumerism hasn't really stopped. And so people have thought, well, just recycle it and it will get rid of the problem. Well, now there's a second step involved, and that is about reusing and being creative of how you can turn something that would normally be trash into something new. And I love watching architecture shows and things like that, because there are some really wonderful modern homes that actually use a lot of recycled materials. So we have to get kind of crafty and creative in that way. So think about, in each of your lives, when you look around your home right now, look at the things that you have in your home and look to see how you can reuse them and what you can do to stop buying things that you can't reuse, that they just simply cannot be. But maybe they can be biodegradable, and it's something that you can turn into something else. So I have more on that too, because I wanted to talk about grove collaboration. So one of the things that I have started doing is I am changing over all of my cleaning chemicals and using this instead. This is from Grove Collaboration, and it's an app, or it's a website that I have been really loving, because it's a bunch of friends that got together in California, and they came up with this idea of putting together all of the products that are safer for humans, that are more eco-sustainable for the environment, and how you can just purchase things that are going to be less waste producing, basically. So one of the things that they have is, this is actually a cleaner. So it's a cleaner concentrate, and you mix it with water, and then you add it to your glass. So I have bought 3 of these, and there's a glass cleaner, there's a floor cleaner, and there's, I think, like metal and wood. So decide what you need, and you mix it with water and add it to this bottle. I will never have to, again, buy a plastic bottle and recycle it or throw it out. I'm not going to use it anymore. Also, if you don't want to buy something like this, well, then you can use vinegar. Vinegar has been something that people have been using for a long time for cleaning. So think about creative ways of how you can reduce the trash in your house. And I really love the idea of using these glass bottles, because it's a very nice, neat way of keeping everything more organized, but also just it looks good, but it's also really helpful to the environment. I will never have to buy another Windex bottle. I already have all of my concentrate here, and look, it says please recycle. So it's in a recyclable package as well. So really wonderful website that really breaks down all the products that you can use that's really friendly for the nature. Number 2, grow your own gardens organically in your own yard to support the population increase and demand. So if you can, not everybody has this opportunity, but if you can, start to find ways of how you can just grow your own vegetables, grow your own fruit and vegetables, because this will lessen the demand in the farmers and the production of the fruits and the vegetables that are coming from the markets. And that is going to really help, because right now they don't have enough space or room sometimes to even grow as many crops that they need to feed all of the mouths. So if you can be responsible and just individually take it into your responsibility of just going ahead and just, growing your own stuff, then definitely do that. I highly recommend it. Number 3, think about helping to crash businesses that pollute or add to earth pollution by not using eco-friendly materials that is biodegradable and doesn't hurt the ocean life and water. People have the power to stop these companies and force these companies to change or find new ways of manufacturing and creating. So a lot of times there's a human factor to it. We don't want to boycott or stop buying from a company because we're like, well, there's people that are working with them too, and it's important, to help them. But at the same time, we have the power. We hold the power as consumers that are not creating our own products, because they have to follow the demand. So keep that in mind. And when I say crash, I mean just stop buying them completely, where they see their numbers drop and they start to look at their marketing people and ask, well, what are we doing wrong? What is this that we can do and change? Because if a company is really meant to survive, then it will adapt and it will change its ways. So that's really what is going to happen as far as being consumers and producers. The consumers are going to have to really teach the producers, the manufacturers, that they're no longer going to just take these types of items and objects and things like that they make that is not going to be good for the environment, that you can't recycle, that has too much plastic, that has wrapping to it, that and it's cheaply made, so they're not really thinking really about the organic component of it. So this is where the people have the power. So you have to take that power back, and you send emails, you leave comments on their boards, and you just stop buying their products. And that really is what you have to do, is when you see something in your home that enters into your home and has no recycling, there's no recycling little symbol on it, don't buy it anymore. Stop that completely. And every individual really has to do that. We have to get to a point where we no longer let those companies keep taking advantage of the earth and the resources, and they're really just thinking about the money as the bottom line. We really have to get to that point where we as the consumers say enough is enough and put them in their place. So number 4, be vigilant about endangered species. Many times it's not human hunters that are actually killing the species, but it's a message to us to know that their land and their resources are being taken over. So we have to pay attention to that, because that's a good sign that we're encroaching on their land and we're using too much resources and we're not replenishing. So I have a way of I like to look at these issues as not a negative, and something that, it's not a negative that I'm creating with my mind or others are creating with their mind, but it's an opportunity for us to use our minds together and to actually think of new ways, innovative ways. And I really feel that a lot of us have been born on Earth during this time period in order to do that, because this is a really different time. So no longer can we just think like we did in the old days where we just thought, oh, Earth will take care of itself. We're getting to the point where there's an imbalance of human ignorance versus the way that the Earth can sustain itself and heal itself. There's too many humans that are just really disconnected from nature, and they're really not thinking about how they are adding to the problem. So, depopulation of humans, I'll say this, it's not an option. We can't make those choices. And I've spoken about this on my channel because that's something that I am aware of, that there are people that are in very, very high places that really want just to answer the issue of climate change and, land reduction, food scarcity, and all that just by killing off a bunch of people. We can't do that. Spiritually, it would be detrimental to our souls because we're connected, we're interconnected to everyone. So we can't make those choices. It's something that's not an option. And so really what it's doing is it's forcing humans to actually use their minds and think of better ways of actually solving these issues together. Number 5, protests and report companies that are not replenishing the earth and are using outdated methods to produce. Be a whistleblower. There is so much power in those who are whistleblowers. Every single change that has happened really in the modern times has really been brought to awareness by whistleblowers. People who work in the companies or who are around and are connected to these corporations, they really have to start to speak the truth and be very honest to people and let them know that, yes, the company I work for is dumping their toxic chemicals in the river behind. This is something that's really imperative for each soul to do. And just know that it's a brave move, it's courageous, and you will be rewarded in many ways. And I know it's difficult sometimes to stand up to the people that you work for, but they'll learn a lesson in the end as well. This is really not about punishment. This is about learning lessons, evolving together spiritually, and really saving the human species together. Number 6, stop using gas and coal, that type of resource. We really have to think that, it's something that we can't rely on anymore. And we really have to switch over to using electric cars if we can, carpooling, biking more, walking, because it's so important that we reduce that type of consumption of gas and coal and really think of new ways to use energy. There's the hydrotherapy, there's all of these different ways of actually using energy that is really not using those types of natural resources, but is using the unlimited resources of the elements, air, water, things that come naturally from just our environment is so important. Instead of reaching into the ground and taking from what we have as a limited resource of the earth. It's so important. And the effects of the gas burning and things like that, that's also really contributing to the greenhouse effect. Now, the reason why they're calling it not global warming anymore is because everybody is experiencing climate change in a different way. You can't really say that it's just heating up and only the temperature is getting hot. In Chicago, we're having drastic climate change where it's very cold right now. It's 40 degrees on May 7th. So that's not normal, not even for Chicago. And that is showing that the polar ice caps are melting and the Arctic wind is coming in, and that's what's blowing in that cold air as the oceans are cooling down and the ice caps are actually melting into the ocean. It affects us each differently by the geographical way that we're positioned on Earth. So not all of us are going to experience extremely hot weather and not cold weather, but it's going to be varied. So really what climate change is all about is drastic climate change and weather change. So they're not calling it really global warming, but it is about warming and then it causes climate change that will be experienced as not a warming, but as a freezing or as something else, wherever you are. So that's really important because we really want to try to limit the effects of the greenhouse effect. 7, think about eating less meat and stopping the supply and demand for factories and the constant killing of animals. So not only is it wrong, to kill or harm another living thing for some people, it's also truly a way of looking at our sustainability. Our land usage is for factories is just it's becoming really hard to keep that going. And also the waste production that these factories actually create. We really have to look at that. And so when you become someone that eats less meat in your life, and you really look to using the natural things that are around you, and you're not really then part of that system that is really just causing all of this destruction by factorization. And so it's a really great way of helping individually if you can. This is the time now to think about it. This is really important for our climate change because it all is connected. All of the factories and with their waste production and the way that they are, slaughtering the animals and the way that they get rid of the waste and the type of energy that they use to run those machines and things like that is something that's really causing a big problem in this world. So we have to think about ways like they were talking about living back on the land as the indigenous people did, or the communities that live off the land. Think about ways that you can. Most of those people will be vegetarians or vegans within those communities because they understand that you can use maybe some products from animals, but you have to replenish and you have to give them the freedom. And we shouldn't be just constantly building on land these factories to usher them in and kill them off. There's a moral problem with that a lot of people are coming to terms with, but there's also really something that's happening within our world as far as waste production and taking over the land and the resources. Number 8, think about this as something personal to you. I look at this nature climate change as part of a big reason why I was born. So people need to stop seeing the earth and animals as separate from themselves, but we're from the same tree of life, and you share the DNA with all the animals. So it's really something that I think every individual has to ask themselves. I would say that this is probably one of the biggest spiritual questions that we're all going to be coming up to within ourselves. What more can we do for the earth? What are we each contributing to the destruction of the earth? This is probably even more important than religion in a way, because this is dealing with our livelihood and our species sustainability. So regardless of what you believe as far as a faith or religion, and sometimes people like to put it on God and angels will save us. Well, there is a deeper wisdom in kind of understanding the way that God works, or the spiritual universe works, is that we are the hands of this force. And if we continue to ignore our sense of duty and really kind of cloud our judgment and disconnect from nature, well, then we're not really doing the work or the will of God as many people would see it. So that's one way that you can think about it. I just want people to look at it as something that's spiritually happening to them and happening to this world, and it's not something that's separate from them any longer. Number 9, get involved with your local Green Party office or environmental protection office. If you really want to just kind of see what more you can do, You can volunteer with them. I volunteered with them, and it was a really great time to be able to just spread awareness of some of the Green Party policies. And we really need more volunteers that are willing to join these forces that are going to combat the ignorance about nature on Earth. So calling all elven souls, fairy souls, but also just really compassionate humans that really care for the earth and want to see what more is in store for the human species. It's time to get involved. And so if you can, if you have time on your hands, get involved, see how you can create more awareness around you, what you can do in your own life. Look at your house right now. What I have personally started doing, because I do love my beautiful things. Not gonna lie, I love to surround myself in that. But I've started to take a look, and I went through this spring cleaning, going through all of the things that I need, and really kind of just paring down and getting down to the basics. So take a look at your life and see how you can live more minimalistically, and what you can do in that way. Because it's really imperative that everybody really takes a look at their consumerism. It's very easy to go on eBay and just to do shopping. A lot of people are addicted to shopping, and I used to be this way. It's very easy to go on and just kind of look for like little things that give us a temporary sense of fulfillment and joy. But there's becoming a price with that, especially if you're buying things that are not going to be something that you can recycle later and you're just going to throw out in the trash in the landfill one day. Consumers have to be more smarter and wiser about their choices that they make. And I do feel that this is a really great opportunity for humanity to really show how much they have spiritually evolved and really, step up to the plate and be the beings that they believe themselves to be and that they are truly, and actually start acting like it and caring for the nature and the animals around them and coming together. And that really includes even the meat eaters. Truly, you have to work with us. We have to find a way where we can stop the factorization and the waste production. So if we can't stop you from eating meat, which I know that a lot of people would like to, well, then we can think of smarter ways of doing it. And this is where we are going to be headed in the future, where we have to collaborate with one another. And of course, we cannot force anyone to take a certain life path and style. So we have to just come together. So I'm just going to leave you with one quote from The Nature Cure, which I will still get into and do a discussion on it because it's a really great read from Gandhi. And his quote he has is this: "What we are doing to the force of the world is but a mere reflection of what we are doing to ourselves and to one another." Gandhi. And that's true. Nature reflects the inside and what's going on, and not as an individual level, but a collective level. And I wanted to say one more thing about that, because spiritually, sometimes people who have gotten to a state of enlightenment and awareness within themselves and do consider themselves awakened and are part of the awakened group of humanity, well, there's another part, there's another layer to that it isn't just about your thoughts, because that is what you can control in your life, but there's a collective that is going out, that is going around you as far as all the souls involved in this world. And so there's different layers to the idea of the spiritual realization that your thoughts create your reality. Well, yes, they do. And part of the problem is that the collective has been really unconscious and kind of unaware of their connection to nature. And that has created the reality of the demise of nature and all of the damage that we see. So not only are we supposed to awaken spiritually, but now we're supposed to bring that spirit and awaken into the physical world and see how we can use our gifts and our abilities to create a more beautiful, harmonious, and sustainable Earth for the human species to experience a future advanced civilization. So thanks for watching, everyone. Please share the UN report. Go ahead and share this video. Make your own video. I definitely encourage that as well. And I will see you all later. Take care.